We all have that gap, right? The one between where we are today and where we desperately, deeply want to be. And every single day, we stand at the edge of that gap with a choice. Do we start building the bridge to get across, or do we just wait? Well, today, we're not just going to talk about that choice. We are going to break down how you stop waiting and you start becoming the person who already is the answer.
Man, this one hits hard, because tomorrow sounds so hopeful, doesn't it? It feels like a clean slate, a fresh start, but it's also a graveyard where our best ideas and biggest dreams go to die. It's the most dangerous word because it gives us the ultimate permission slip to do absolutely nothing today.
You know, the truth is, tomorrow is usually just a mask for fear. It's our favorite escape hatch when we don't really want to change. It whispers in your ear that you can get comfortable, that you've got all the time in the world. But that promise of tomorrow can stretch into weeks, then months, then years, and eventually it just becomes the crushing regret of never having started at all.
And this right here, this is the trap we all fall into. We tell ourselves these stories, right? Oh, as soon as I get that fancy new camera, then I'll start my YouTube channel. Or once it's January 1st, I'm gonna get serious about my health. We're always waiting for this perfect magical moment that, let's be honest, never ever shows up. But the real power, it isn't in perfection. It's in starting right now. It's in grabbing those dusty dumbbells in your garage and just beginning. Your imperfections aren't a liability. They're what make your journey real and incredibly inspiring to others.
So if the answer is just to start now, what is actually holding us back? Well, that brings us to a huge mindset shift we have to make. It's about understanding the invisible walls that we build around ourselves, the walls that dictate what we believe is even possible for us in the first place. This goes so much deeper than just hitting the targets you set. What this really means is that you can only operate within the reality that you've decided is true for you. The story you tell yourself about who you are, your identity, that is the ultimate boundary, the ultimate wall.
You know, the two words, I am, can either be a jail cell or they can be a portal to a new dimension. When you say, that's just what I make, you've literally just locked in your income. When you say, that's just how I am, you've defined your physical limits. But what if you changed the statement? What if you declared, I am the type of person who always finds a way? You completely rig the game in your own favor, because human beings will do almost anything to act in alignment with who they believe themselves to be.
So how do you actually break free? Well, first, you've got to see the walls for what they are. Acknowledge them. Then, step 2, you question them. Are these rules I'm living by even real, or did I make them up? Step 3, you set new, bigger targets that live outside those old walls. But the final step, this is the real game changer. You stop trying to win inside your old reality. What if you could just play a different game altogether?
And playing that new game, that leads us right to the core solution. It demands a massive shift in our focus, away from looking for help outside of ourselves to building undeniable value from within. This, right here, is where everything begins to change.
This is probably the most critical mental shift you can possibly make. It's the difference between going to some networking event hoping to find that one person who can change your life and going home to work on your craft, becoming so good that everyone wants you in their network. One is passive searching, the other is active becoming.
This idea of lagging indicators completely reframes how we should think about success. See, we're taught to chase the money, to chase the connections, to chase the big opportunities. But all of those things, they're just lagging indicators. They are the result of you becoming more valuable, not the cause of it. We chase them because they're shiny and easy to count, but the real work, the hours of practice, the skill building, that's invisible. The work on yourself has to come first, always.
I love this quote. Instead of complaining that the price of success is just too high, this flips the entire script. The price is fixed. The only variable in the equation is you. So the real question becomes, how do I increase my own value, my own skill set, so that I can finally afford the life that I want? It turns a complaint into an immediate call to action. So when you relentlessly, obsessively focus on becoming exceptional, on being so unbelievably good that people simply can't ignore you, all of those lagging indicators, they just start to fall into place. The network, the opportunities, the money, they are all naturally drawn to the immense value that you are now creating.
But how do you maintain that kind of intense focus in a world that is just full of noise and constant distraction? This next idea gives us a fantastic real-world analogy for how to block it all out and just stay on your own path.
Okay, so picture this. You're in an axe-throwing competition. You're being super consistent, right? You're aiming for the center bullseye, which is worth a solid 5 points. But way up at the top, there are these two tiny little blue dots. Super high risk, but super high reward. They're worth 10 points. But you're sticking to your game plan. You're hitting the bullseye.
Then it happens. Your competitor steps up and, with a total stroke of luck, hits one of those blue dots. You see it and you panic. You completely abandon your winning strategy, and you spend the rest of your throws desperately chasing those high-risk dots, and you miss every single time. The result? You lose, and you lose badly. The craziest part is, if you just ignored them and stayed true to your own game, you would have won by a landslide.
And that is the ultimate lesson. There will always be outside circumstances trying to pull you off your course. Someone else's big win on social media, a new shiny object, a sudden wave of doubt. You have to trust your game. And that's not about blind faith, it's about a deep understanding of your own strengths and a fierce commitment to walking your own path. So let's bring it all home and recap the major points here. First, the only thing that destroys tomorrow is action today. Second, the walls of your reality are built by your identity, so you have to redefine it. Third, become so valuable that the outcomes start chasing you. And finally, run your own race. Block out the noise and stay in your lane.
And please remember this. Starting out with an echoey microphone or a mediocre camera isn't a sign of failure. It's the beginning of your hero's journey. It's what lets the very fact that you found a way become the most powerful and inspiring part of your entire narrative.
Because in the end, this is the only question that really matters. Perfection is an illusion. It's a myth that keeps us waiting forever. But progress is real. And it starts the very moment you decide to begin with exactly what you have right here, right now. So what answer will you become? You know that feeling when your back is against the wall? It feels like you're being punished, but you're not. You're being called to evolve. And when that clock is ticking down, you're not running out of time. No, you're being handed an assignment. Find the answers that have been right there, hidden in plain sight all along. So today we're going to get into how to build the very architecture of your own resilience. And it all starts with getting your head around a pretty deep and fundamental paradox.
This right here. This is the central truth of how we grow as human beings. Our most profound purpose almost always comes from our deepest pain. Think about it. Our greatest evolution, it's never forged when we're comfortable. It's forged in the fire of adversity. It's in those moments when we feel completely and utterly lost, when we're certain of nothing, that's when the real path forward finally starts to show itself.
Okay, so that's the billion-dollar question, isn't it? It's one thing to hear a nice quote, but it's another thing entirely to actually live it. How do you take that raw, chaotic energy of a struggle, that feeling that it's about to swallow you whole, and methodically, piece by piece, turn it into strength? Well, the answer isn't about fighting the struggle. It's about changing how you see it in the first place. To turn that pain into purpose, we first have to really understand this paradox. When we get pushed to our absolute breaking point, we're forced to find a new way to operate, a new way to be. And that's when we learn a fundamental truth. The only way to get what we truly want is by going through what we currently don't. And man, this goes directly against our brain's most basic, hardwired programming.
Think of your mind's default setting like a safety protocol. Its number one job is just to keep things the same, to maintain what it knows, what's predictable. It's kind of like the stock speakers that come with an old car. Yeah, they work, they play music, but they will never, ever be able to produce something truly powerful or moving. If you want to grow, you've got to be willing to rip them out, rewire the whole system, and intentionally upgrade the quality of the sound you let into your head.
And let's be honest, stepping into the unknown feels exactly like this. It feels like you're pushing a giant boulder up a steep hill. It's exhausting work, and there's absolutely no guarantee you're going to see results anytime soon. It just opens the door for self-doubt and that constant nagging worry. This is the price you pay for any meaningful change. The trick is to see these feelings not as a stop sign, but as feedback. The exhausting? That's proof you're putting in the work. The doubt? That's proof you're pushing past your old limits.
And this is where we make the essential mental shift. We have to literally retrain our brain's response to fear. That feeling of terror, that pit in your stomach, it's not a signal to run away. It's an upgrade disguised as a monster. It's an invitation to the next level. So here's something you can do, a practical technique. The very next time that fear kicks in, don't just feel it, name it. Say it out loud. This is the feeling of growth. That simple act starts to recalibrate your brain to connect that feeling not with danger, but with progress.
This whole mental reframing thing is so crucial because the real battle, it's almost never external. The biggest, toughest obstacles we will ever face aren't in the physical world. They're in the stories we tell ourselves about the world. The battle is, and it always will be, mental.
I mean, just look at this breakdown. This is such a powerful way to see the truth. 99% of what holds us back isn't a lack of money, or time, or physical strength. It's the narrative. It's that little voice in your head that says, I can't do it, I'm not ready, what if I fail? That right there is the mental Goliath that every single one of us has to face down.
So here's the bottom line. I want you to imagine you are the captain of a ship. This single most powerful thing that determines where you end up isn't the wind, it's not the waves, it's not the currents, it's the storyline, the narrative you, the captain, are telling yourself. We have to stop blaming the weather and start taking command of the ship's log. Every single day, you have the power to write a new entry, to define this journey on your own terms.
Let this idea really, truly sink in. The person you were yesterday does not get to decide who you are today. One of the most freeing things you can do is to consciously decide that every single morning is a brand new start. It's a chance to detach from the character you've been playing and step into the one you actually want to become.
And this brings us right to the core question, the one you have to answer with complete, brutal honesty. What is the specific story, the specific fear that's truly holding you back? You know, our deepest pain often doesn't come from the things we've done. It comes from the things we haven't done. All that potential we left on the table because we were afraid to challenge a story we told ourselves.
Answering that question and then actually acting on it, that requires us to really dissect the anatomy of courage. It's about understanding what progress really costs and learning to use the incredible clarifying power that you can only find in the middle of life's storms.
All right, let's start by tearing apart a piece of advice we've all heard a million times. Just do your best. I mean, on the surface, it sounds great, right? But what does it actually mean? It's totally subjective. It ties how you perform to how you feel, which means on a bad day, your best might be way, way below what's actually needed to get the job done. It's a story that can, weirdly enough, open the door to limiting yourself.
Now compare that to a much more powerful standard, doing what's required. This is objective. It takes the emotional spotlight off of you and puts it squarely on the outcome. It's all about identifying the goal and then accepting nothing less. When you take Plan B off the table, you force yourself to make Plan A work. And when we are required to find a way, we almost always do.
And here's where those two ideas click together into something bigger. Admiral McRaven's brilliant insight here reframes your best not as some emotional variable, but as the willingness to do what is required, especially when you're in your darkest moments.
Real strength is defined by what you do when everything is hard, not when everything is easy.
You know, we don't grow despite the storms in life, we grow because of them. First, the storm comes in and just disrupts our comfortable little world. It shatters our normal standards. Second, in that chaos, it reveals what really matters. It gives you this brutal, beautiful clarity that calm, sunny days just can't provide. And finally, by getting through it, you come out the other side stronger, with a totally different and more capable understanding of who you really are.
And this brings us to our final, and honestly, our most empowering section. This whole process, it's your personal invitation to evolve. You are not just some passive observer watching your life go by. You are the architect of your reality, and you have more than enough evidence to prove it.
I want you to just think about this statistic for a moment. Seriously, consider every single challenge, every setback, every dark moment you have ever faced in your life. The fact that you're here right now means your success rate in surviving and moving through all of it is a perfect 100%. You are, by definition, undefeated. That's not my opinion, that is a fact. Use it as your evidence.
So let's just tear down these narratives that hold you back. Are you afraid of falling? Your track record proves you'll get back up, and you'll be stronger for it. Afraid of what other people think? The truth is, most people are so wrapped up in their own lives they barely notice yours. Are you afraid of losing your pride? Listen, true honor isn't found in pretending you're perfect. It's found in having the courage to break yourself down so you can build something truly magnificent.
So the next time you feel that fear, that uncertainty, that discomfort pulsing through your veins, recognize it for exactly what it is. It's the feeling of construction. It is the friction of growth. It's the physical proof that you are actively building a new reality for yourself, one that's going to demand more from you, but give you so much more in return.
And this is the final, crucial idea to carry with you. The past, that trail of water you see behind a boat, it has zero power to steer it or push it forward. Your past brought you right here, to this moment. It gave you lessons, it made you resilient, but it does not exist where you're going. Your eyes belong on the horizon. All the tools we've talked about, reframing your fear, rewriting your story, committing to do what's required. This is your map. It's not going to show you the final destination, but it shows you exactly how to navigate. You already have everything you need. So the only question left, the only one that really matters now is this. You have the map. When are you going to start charting your course?
You know, when you really get down to it, life sometimes presents you with a choice. A very simple, very stark choice. You can either face a few seconds of pure, gut-wrenching discomfort right now, or you can live an entire lifetime haunted by the ghost of what if. This is an explainer about that exact choice, drawing from the powerful work of Eddie Pinheiro. It's really about one thing, the decision between now or never.
Pinheiro has this incredible way of grounding these huge philosophical ideas in really vivid, real-world stories. This quote, it comes from a story he tells about a kid standing on the edge of a cliff, absolutely terrified to jump into the water below. All his friends were already down there, laughing, having the time of their lives. But he was just frozen. Frozen by a fear that we all face, just maybe not so literally. So I'm going to ask you directly. Let's make this personal. What is your ledge? What's that journey that's been whispering your name? The one you keep walking up to, peering over the edge of, but never quite take the leap. We all have one. Maybe it's a career change, or a really difficult conversation you know you need to have. Maybe it's that creative project that scares you to death. I want you to picture it, identify it, right now. That feeling, right there, that hesitation, that brings us to our first big idea, what Pinheiro calls the ledge of fear. He makes the case that our lives are often just a series of these ledges, these critical moments, these binary choices where we either leap into the great unknown or we retreat back into the familiar. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. Look at how Pinheiro reframes what fear actually is. He teaches that heart-pounding anxiety you feel standing on the ledge, that's not a warning sign to turn back. No, it's the toll. It's the price of admission for a different future. It's the cost of growth, the entry fee for everything that could be. And the alternative? Well, the alternative is the comfort of stagnation, which eventually, always, becomes its own kind of prison.
And this idea leads us perfectly into our next section, your destiny's detour. Because according to Pinero, that hesitation, that deep primal instinct to turn away from the ledge, it's not a flaw. It's actually a predictable, even necessary part of any great story, especially your own.
The psychologist Carl Jung absolutely nailed this, and it's a theme that runs deep in the work of Eddie Pinero. Pinero often talks about how he spent years in the corporate world, actively running away from a path in teaching and personal development. And what happened? Well, his entire brand, his entire life's work is now built on that very thing he was trying to avoid. He literally met his destiny on the road he took to run from it. Pinero uses the classic framework of the hero's journey to map this whole process out. And I want you to look very closely at step 3, the refusal of the call. It's built right into the architecture of transformation. It's supposed to be there. Think about it. Luke Skywalker didn't want to leave his uncle's farm. Jonah got on a boat and sailed in the complete opposite direction of where he was told to go. The point is, refusing the call doesn't actually stop the story. It just delays the inevitable. That moment where you have to meet your own truth.
So here's the bottom line. Here's the crucial takeaway. We avoid the jump because we tell ourselves a story. We believe we're choosing safety. But as Pinero so powerfully illustrates, that's a lie. You're not choosing safety, you're choosing a cage. A comfortable, familiar, beautiful cage. You're choosing to stay small, to play in an arena someone else built instead of having the guts to build your own.
Which brings us to a really important shift in perspective. It's time to stop analyzing the fear. It's time to stop dissecting the hesitation. It's time to start awaking the force inside you that can conquer it. In Ponerusa's language, it's time to meet the giant within.
Let's just be honest. The world is a loud place, and most of the time, its message is one of caution. It's a constant whisper in your ear. Be realistic. Aim a little lower. Hey, why risk falling when you can just learn to love the floor? It's this constant, subtle pressure to trade your fire for the illusion of comfort.
But here's the truth that Pinero argues for. That spark inside you, that ambition you only let yourself feel in the quietest moments, that's the giant. And it doesn't just die, it just goes to sleep. It's the book you haven't written yet, the business you dream about at 3 a.m., the song your soul already knows every single word to. That part of you, it was never ever meant to be compliant. And when that giant finally begins to stir, trust me, everything changes. It's a progression. You start choosing differently, almost instinctively. You stop asking for permission to go after the things that set your soul on fire. You realize you no longer need validation from the outside world. And maybe most importantly, you stop apologizing for the space you take up, for the things you want out of this life. You just start moving with purpose.
This leads us to our final and maybe our most urgent section. Because as Pinero so powerfully puts it, the ultimate price for keeping that giant asleep isn't just a quiet, unfulfilling life. No, in the end, your silence becomes a scream.
In our darkest, most challenging moments, Pinero suggests we face this one fundamental choice. Do we become the sheep, the one who shrinks from the challenge, who blames the world, who just closes their eyes and hopes the wolves go away? Or do we find the wolf inside of us, the part that doesn't just face the challenge, but rises to become the challenge, the part that stops blaming the world and starts rebuilding its own?
I want you to think back to being a kid in a classroom. You knew the answer. You absolutely knew it, but you stayed quiet. You were scared of being wrong, scared of what people would think. And then someone else says the exact words that were in your head. And in that moment, the loudest sound in the room isn't their voice, it's the deafening sound of your own silence. Well, that feeling doesn't go away when we grow up. Every single time we don't speak our truth, act on our calling, or take that jump, that silence echoes.
So we end right back where we started, on the ledge. This life is not a dress rehearsal. The clock is ticking. You can stay on the sidelines or you can step into the arena. You can let the fear of a 10-second fall dictate the rest of your life, or you can finally answer the call you've been avoiding for so long. The world is waiting. The only question left is, what will your answer be?